I declare the Ordinary Council meeting of the 19th of November 2024 held in Council Chambers at Level 2, 388 Hayes Street, Subiaco, open at 5:33 p.m. Welcome councillors, staff, members of the public and the media. On behalf of the City, I acknowledge the Whadjuk Noongar people as the traditional custodians of the land that we're meeting on this evening, and I recognise their ongoing connection to the land and waterways in Subiaco. So I'll take attendances now, and it looks like we've got 8 councillors and a mayor here in person, which is great to see, and the entire executive leadership team here in person as well, the CEO and his 4 directors. So welcome to you all, and we'll announce and call upon other staff as needed. And welcome to you too. Okay, we've got some leave of absence requests. First up, Councillor Nicola Johnston seeking leave from the 31st of January to the 12th of February 2025. Do I have a mover and a seconder for Councillor Johnston's leave? Councillor Burns and Councillor Kosovic, thank you. I'll put that to the vote.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks everyone, that's carried unanimously. Okay, the next leave request, well actually there's 2 more and they both come from Councillor De Vries. The first application is for the period from 1 December to the 31st of December 2024 inclusive, so I'll put that to the vote. Oh, I better not get ahead of myself. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Kosovic and Councillor Jones, thank you. Thank you. That's carried unanimously as well. And finally, the second leave request from Councillor De Vries for the period from 1 February to the 28th of February 2025 inclusive. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that application? Councillor O'Connor and Councillor Johnston. I'll put that to the vote. Very good, that's carried unanimously also. Okay, are there any disclosures of interest this evening? No, we'll move on. There were no public questions taken on notice, so we'll move on to public question time. We've got 2 questions, or 2 submitters. First up, Susan Morris of Centro Avenue. Ms. Morris.
Oh, do I have to use this? Oh, okay. Oh. Fine. I'm more worried about my specs. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come here. My question might seem a bit sort of frivolous to some of you, but it's very important to me. I am the owner-occupier of a townhouse on Centro Avenue. I'm here to ask about the gardening and reticulation services allocated to Centro Avenue. I have spoken in mid-2023 with Troy, the, I believe, manager of gardening services, and I've also contacted my local councillors. Unfortunately, the situation's just getting worse and worse, and my question tonight revolves around what level of importance does the council actually place on Centro Avenue as really quite a main artery in, out and through the city? Roberts Road is kept beautifully. Centro at the moment is a weed fest, and I do not use that carelessly. It's absolutely disgusting. Now, some of the problems are that the London Flames continually drop.
Sorry, Ms Morris, just so that we can pinpoint the questions that you're asking, can you try and stick to the 2 questions that you've submitted? Get through them both, and then we'll take an answer from the director.
Oh, okay. Well, do you want to read them to me? Because I can't remember what I typed.
They're quite different to what you submitted.
Oh, really?
But I assume
Go for it.
I assume you're relatively familiar with them. That the first one was about what is the SCC plan and when will it be actioned?
I was getting there.
Okay. Well, look, don't let me stop your train of thought too much. Why don't you get on to question 2? I think we know what question 1 is, but question 2 I think is about reticulation to Centro Ave.
Well, they're both relating to the gardening and services. So yes, if you want me to talk about question 1, now that lovely lady has provided me with a copy of my question. I did try and print it, but I couldn't access it. Okay. So the first question is, there's a lot of detritus falling on the street, and it is not being picked up, and it is now dangerous on the cycleway and the footpaths. One of the protective frames on the south side was removed in very late 22. Now all of the protective frames around the garden beds have been removed on the north side, and those garden beds have been dug out with no replacement and no information provided to the local residents about what the plan is and what the intention is. To be absolutely honest, it's just disgusting. I mean, the number of weeds with great big blooms and 20 million seeds ready to everywhere is quite extraordinary, and I'm getting quite stressed about it. Okay, so you want my second question. The second question is that I asked about this originally. I was told that there were plans and that it would all be replanted in the middle of last year. Nothing happened. Now, the middle of this year, I was told again, because they wait for the sort of, winter, early winter season around April, May to plant, so the poor things have got a chance to get their roots embedded. Nothing's happened. All that's happened is that there's more weeds and there's still vast areas of dug up soil. I then saw over at Subi Common, and can I just give a bouquet here? That is the most magnificently manicured ground space that I've ever witnessed in any city, and I've lived in 5 countries, worked in 5 countries around the world. It's lovely, but it's just around the corner, and to see it manicured to that degree and Central Avenue in such disrepair is a little bit sort of disorienting. There was a chap at the Common one day in a van, Subi, reticulation, blah, 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 and we had a lovely chat, and he told me that the reticulation in Central Avenue had been turned off in January 23 because the Water Corp had informed the council that you had overused your water supply. I'm not saying whether this is true or not, I'm just telling you what I was told. The problem is, as we were standing there speaking, which was about quarter to 12,
Ms. Morris,
10 to 12.
I might just try and keep you on track.
Just one. Just
look,
let me finish this sentence. This is
okay,
about the reticulation.
Yeah, we don't have time to go through a conversation that you had in 2023. But what would be good is if you got out your question, which is about what you see as the neglect on Central Avenue. So if we could just steer the question towards that one, then we can get some answers from the director.
You specifically asked me to speak about the reticulation, and that is what I'm doing.
I asked you to ask the 2 questions that you submitted. We've got some pretty clear meeting procedures. You submitted 2 questions, so I think it would assist the process if you said the 2 questions so that we can get some answers. Sorry, just in case there's anyone listening at home, can you press the button so that everyone can hear you? Thank you.
Sprinklers at midday, noon, going berserk on the lawns at Subi Common. So there is a dichotomy in my brain that tells me, why are you watering in the middle of the sunny day and the water supply has been cut off to other areas? That was the reticulation situation. Okay. What did you want me to particularly address with question 1?
The questions, the questions
2.
is what we'd really like to hear. Look, I think we've got the background, but your second question was, why is there such neglect on Centro Avenue, on which previously funds have been invested, to now allow neglect, which equals waste of past money spent on plants and labour. So I think we've got a question about the SCC plan and when it will be actioned, and a second question about the condition of Centro Ave. So I will ask the Director of Technical Services to answer both those questions. Thank you, Ms. Morris.
Thank you, and for you, President Member, and thank you for the question. So I guess in relation to the first question around what's happening along Central Avenue, and I guess the reason for the delays for some of the works that have occurred there, primary reason is really the planned replacement of the main irrigation line, which is due to happen over the next few years, which runs through Central Avenue and also services the northern Subiaco parks and streetscapes. So, and this could have involved the excavation and modification of those existing garden beds. So as a result, the city had held off undertaking work in these garden beds until the planning was more progressed. And I am pleased to say that the planning has progressed enough that we will be refreshing the garden beds with hardy water-wise annuals and ground cover, and this work should be complete by the 13th of December 2024. You also did make mention in your submitted questions online about the frames and why they were removed. So the frames that were removed on the eastern garden beds were due to the water main rupture, which you may recall. These have not been replaced as the city is progressively removing them within the Subi Central Precinct. This is predominantly because the frames pose a number of operational issues to staff and contractor safety, create difficulty and cost to maintain vegetation within them, and also reduce access to surrounding infrastructure, which includes some of the irrigation that supports that section of Centro. In relation to your second question about, I guess, irrigation and water allocation generally, you're quite right, as I think you mentioned when speaking to a staff member, that the city does have a water allocation that's set by Water Corporation that we must meet every year. Last year was the driest summer on record and necessitated the city having to ration water to priority areas such as high community use parks and heat-stressed trees. This limited how much could be allocated to some of the other areas, such as garden beds on Central Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hambley. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you, Ms. Morris. That's it. That's the answer.
Can I just say it would be really helpful if you had bothered to inform the residents so that everybody knew what was happening?
Okay, the second question, well, the second submitter for this evening, Gillian Kingslin of Derby Road, Shenton Park. Moni Allegro is going to read the question.
We are the Unicorn Group, as you know. Before I ask the question, I wanted to thank you all for all the efforts you did up till now. We particularly loved the No More Blank Walls. Truly, thank you for that. We originally came with 2 questions, but since we had some correspondence with you, the Mayor, the CEO, and Minister Templeman, we withdrew that question. I saw Mr. Templeman this morning. I was very fortunate to see him for the first time. Lovely man. And he said he would support you, should you decide to support the Arts Hub in Subiaco soon. Anyway, so thank you for listening to us. It's been 3 years. Can the Council advise us, please, of the progress being made on a proposed cultural plan for the city of Subiaco? For some years, the Unicorn Group, representing gathering local artists and art enthusiasts, has asked for the implementation for a cultural plan to ensure a cohesive cultural future for the people of Subiaco. We send you a detailed list for that cultural plan in 2023. And a comprehensive cultural plan, we believe, will ensure that community arts projects will be directed with purpose and led ultimately to an established art scene in Subiaco, which will be recognized by far and wider community and help the economy as well. I'm sure you're aware of that. I just added that. Voila. Thank you for that.
Thanks for the question. I thought we were going to be talking about the Arts Hub specifically, which I acknowledge was the subject of a unanimous council resolution about 3 years ago. I remember the council meeting well, and at the time, council did resolve to commission a feasibility study to investigate the idea of an Arts Hub, which was brought to us by good people like yourself. The report was duly commissioned, and the advice that came back was that there is a case for an Arts Hub, and that report has informed our operations and our short and longer term planning since. As for sites such as the boiler room at the old PMH site, our staff have certainly made it known to Development WA that the city has an interest in having a presence of some kind at Subi East at the old PMH site. and we also continue to keep an open mind about other possible sites across Subiaco. The news of your meeting with Minister Templeman is news to us. It sounds very promising, and I think we know that when the state government smiles upon you, things can happen. So we might catch up with you later to see what exactly David Templeman said to you, but it sounds like that the stars may be aligning, perhaps. But I think you've reframed your question this evening and spoken more about a cultural plan for the city, where we're currently in the process of an integrated strategic planning exercise, which we're calling the new council plan, that will involve almost every aspect of the city's business. But to the extent that it touches upon culture, I might hand to the Director of Development Services, who, amongst other things, oversees that part of the city's operations, to say a few things.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, and thank you for your question. I've got a really long answer, and it's on the screen, but I'm not going to read it all out for you because some of it repeats some of the stuff that you've would have already seen in any event. But firstly, thank you for your ongoing commitment and your passion for this project. And sometimes in government, it does take us some time to work through things, and we have to do this because of the legislation that binds us, but also that we need to, make sure that we've got good governance structures and make sure that we tick all the boxes as necessary. So we did have the 2022 feasibility report, and that provided a good study of artist needs in and around the city. And I think the Mayor provided an update on that, on identifying a possible artist hub. Just because we don't actually have the artist hub in the physical location at the moment, it hasn't really stopped the city in testing some ideas. And you mentioned No More Blank Walls. There's been Stem by Stem. There's been Billy the Giant, Billy Bob the Giant. There's been a number of community activations as well. And these are some of the ideas that we're testing. And I've listed a few in there. And we continue to learn from them. So thank you for your ideas and your participation in that, not just yourself, but other artists in Subi as well. As the Mayor said, that the city will now be commencing the preparation of its first council plan, and this will help shape the community's priorities into the future. Now, this is a really important initiative that will seek to balance the needs and wishes of the broader community, and we will require the sharing of resources around a range of initiatives. And we understand that operating a significant community asset like an artist hub requires very careful consideration of resources and finances. And we are looking at our own managed assets and amidst other redevelopments planned into the future, with potential opportunities for community facilities to be incorporated. And of course, all of this needs to be subject to wider consultation, and then obviously council approval at the end as well. So we are in a long train. We've been testing some ideas, and we've been embracing ideas from the community. So thank you again for your energy and commitment on behalf of the Unicorn Group to strengthen and enhance Subiaco's participation in the cultural and artistic ecology throughout WA. That's great. And I think David mentioned, sorry to cut you off there, Mr. Mayor, we might catch up with you after this and can bring the Mayor or others along as well as we need be. But yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, we'll move on. There were no public statements submitted this evening, no petitions or approved deputations, so we'll move through the agenda and I'll seek confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. There's a single set of minutes from the Ordinary Council meeting of the 22nd of October 2024. Do I have a mover and a seconder to accept those minutes? Councillor Kosovich and Councillor De Vries. Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All right, the minutes are accepted unanimously. Thank you. Right, announcements. I thought I'd have an audience, but Lloyd, you'll have to do. Look, I'll make the most of it, because if the agenda briefing is anything to go by, the public at home are probably not going to have a great deal to listen to this evening on the public agenda. So I'll say what I need to say now. So please bear with me. Okay, the first announcement is that we've had another month of state and national wins at awards ceremonies. I did announce last month that the Walmsley Lane Green Walks project had won the Minister for Local Government's Place Innovation Award, and this month the awards keep coming, and I can report the following. Subi Blooms was crowned the state winner for the best small event at the Australian Events Awards and Symposium. At the 2024 Perth Airport WA Tourism Awards, we won bronze for the Summer in Subi campaign. At the Planning Institute of WA State Awards, we brought home 5 awards in areas including climate change and resilience and performance and innovation in development. Well done to the planning team, and the director has kindly brought along all the awards that we've won in the past month, because I think they live on his desk at the moment, so we're going to need a bigger trophy cabinet, obviously. The awards continued with the city's Rainbow Procession pilot project taking out the Connecting Communities Award at the Local Government Professionals WA Honour Awards. And next week, we're in the running for a further award. The city's a finalist in the Most Accessible Communities WA Awards 2024 in recognition of the accessible services and events that we offer to our community. So fingers crossed for that awards ceremony on the 5th of December. Moving through the announcements, you may have read that Dinner on Blanc occurred a couple of weekends ago. We were really pleased to attract over 1,600 attendees, and we join a proud alumni of locations across the globe to have hosted such an event. I read about it in a couple of places. At last weekend in STM, a full-page spread of some pretty glamorous photos was accompanied by the following. After weeks of guessing where the annual Dinner on Blanc would be held, its glamorous array of guests were guided to Subiaco Oval for an evening of festivities. Meals were shared and champagne was popped. All dressed in their chicest white attire, attendees spun their napkins and danced with sparklers before the iconic event came to a close. Sounds about right. I did also read somewhere else that Subiaco Council refused to answer questions about noise complaints. Look, there's no secret. I've checked, and we got 4 noise complaints. We got 4. By the way, the principal of Bob Hawke College says that students retained access to the playing courts and adjacent green space on the Friday prior, ensuring there was no disruption to the school schedule. By most accounts, a great event, great for Subiaco, and as always, our staff will continue to be professional and considerate about how the city goes about organising events and with whom. Okay, so that's topics 2 of about 4. I did mention the council plan earlier. The work on a new council plan is progressing, and this is going to be our new integrated planning document that will guide the city in years to come. And we're at the stage now where the community, we're ready to engage with the community to help inform what the strategic priorities should look like. The approach to engagement is that we're going to go to the people. We're going to do this through a combination of scheduled discussion sessions and also event activations, one of which will be a pop-up event at the Subiaco Night Markets, which I understand will involve wine, which is a great incentive for most good conversations. But for those people in the community who like doing online surveys, that's still an option as well, with Have Your Say opening up to take feedback on the strategic priorities for the new council plan. The period of engagement will run from the 21st of November to Thursday, the 12th of December 2024. So we're really looking forward to having an up-to-date snapshot of what the community sees as their strategic priorities. And finally, there's an elephant in the room. There's a state election happening next year, and someone in the room is running as an independent for the seat of Nedlands. I'll call you Rosemary because it's nothing to do with your councillor role. It's completely separate from that, in fact, and we know that you've applied for leave and you've been granted it. And the City of Subiaco will, of course, not endorse any candidates. But personally, Rosemary, I'll say to you that you're a valued member of this council. You have been for since 2019, and in fact, you and I got to know each other quite well in the 2017 elections. If anyone wants to think back that far, I say if you want to do this, good for you. And I have no doubt that given your background in local government, you'll be on the campaign trail setting the standard for candidates who are prepared to work with local governments like ours. So all the best to you. Okay, so they're my announcements, and we can get on to some decision making. We've got a number of public agenda items, and a fair chunk of those are potentially capable of being carried on block because they don't have any special voting requirements and there's been no amendments or alternatives submitted. The possible on block vote I've got in front of me would consist of agenda items AR2, C1, C3 and C4. Councillors, did you wish to remove any of those items from the en bloc vote? Okay, it looks like everyone's pretty happy with that, so I'll look for a mover and a seconder for the en bloc vote. Councillor De Vries, thank you, and Councillor Kosovic, I'll put that to the vote. Thanks everyone. The en bloc vote is carried unanimously, which means that those 4 agenda items are carried as recommended by the officers without amendment. So we'll now move through the remaining 2 public agenda items before we deal with a couple confidentially. First up, we've got AR1, the annual report and audited financial statements for 2023 and 2024, which has come through the Audit and Risk Committee and requires an absolute majority endorsement. Do I have a mover and a seconder for AR1? Councillor O'Connor moving, thank you. Councillor De Vries seconding, thank you. Councillor O'Connor.
Sorry, wrong button. Thank you, and through you, Mayor. As a member of the Audit and Risk Committee, I've reviewed both the annual report and the financial statements thoroughly and also had the opportunity to ask detailed questions. I note the Office of the Auditor General has provided an unqualified opinion of our financial statements, which means in common language that they are in proper order. There are a couple of items in the report I'd like to draw people's attention to. Firstly, it's important to recognise that things can and do change throughout a financial year, so it's good to see that the variance analysis provides clear and reasonable explanations about the differences between what was adopted in the budget and what was actually the outcome. It's also important to be reminded of the range of statutory obligations that the City has, and therefore good to see the important work that's been done last financial year to revalue the City's non-investment and investment assets to ensure that they're recorded at fair value in line with statutory requirements. And finally, I just want to note the $4.7 million that the City spends on procurement from businesses within Subiaco, 14% of total purchase orders raised. We're obviously not going to be able to purchase everything we need from within our own boundaries, but it's important that we buy what we can locally, and it's good to see that that amount has increased. In view of those points, I feel confident in supporting the motion to accept the annual report and the audited financial statements.
Thank you, Councillor De Vries. Nothing. Does anyone want to speak to the motion for or against? We might just put that one to the vote then. Thanks everyone. AR1's carried unanimously. So we'll move on to C2, the Capital Works Budget Adjustment. This also requires an absolute majority. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the officer recommendation? Councillor O'Connor moving. Councillor Kosovic seconding. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor McMullen. Just very briefly, obviously it's keeping on top of the condition of our roads is an important core responsibility of local government, and the most cost-effective way to achieve that is to resurface our existing roads before their condition degrades too far and impacts the pavement. Before, I never thought I would know this much about roads. When that happens, the repairs take longer, are more expensive, and are much more disruptive. Roberts Road is one of our key distributor roads around the heart of Subiaco, so keeping this in good condition is essential. The Subi East area this section of road runs through is also expected to undergo significant change in coming years, which will put pressure on the surface, making it more important that it's kept in good condition. So I commend the City for being proactive in both monitoring the condition of our road surfaces generally and successfully applying for grants to assist with funding and support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Kosovich. No. Does anyone else want to speak to the item? I think we can go straight to the vote then. I'll call the vote now. Very good. C2's carried unanimously as well. All right, there were no elected member motions submitted this evening, and no one's raised any urgent business with me this evening, so I think that means it's time to close the meeting to the public. I will seek a mover and a seconder for a procedural motion under 7.1H of the meeting procedures local law that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 5.232A, C and F of the Local Government Act, while items AR3, AR4, AR5, 13.1 and 13.2 are considered. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the procedural motion? Councillor De Vries, thank you, moving, and Councillor Kosovich seconding. I will put the procedural motion to the vote. The procedural motion is carried unanimously, which means we'll close the meeting to the public. Right, we're back out from behind closed doors, and I confirm that Council made a number of resolutions, which I'll read out now. On AR3, it was resolved that the infrastructure grants internal review is noted, and their recommendation on that was carried unanimously. On AR4, it was resolved that the food business inspection report is noted, and again, that was a unanimous decision of Council. On AR5, the Council resolved that the update on the Office of the Auditor General's planned performance audit, local government management of purchase cards is noted. Again, that was carried unanimously. On 13.1, it was unanimously resolved as follows. That firstly, 39 Bishop Street, Jollymont, WA is leased to Vessel Studio Proprietary Limited, consistent with the terms contained in this report and otherwise on terms acceptable to the City. And secondly, the Chief Executive Officer is authorised to execute any documents, deeds and agreements necessary to give effect to this resolution. And the final decision that was made behind closed doors was that in relation to 13.2, in accordance with the Chief Executive Officer's employment contract, notify Mr Cameron of Council's intention to offer Mr Cameron a renewal of contract per attachment 3 for the role of CEO. That was carried 6-3, and attachment 3 was amended with a single amendment changing a reference in clause 10.2 of the proposed contract from 6 months down to 3 months. And that amendment was carried 5-4. Congratulations, CEO. I think I can now say that the Council looks forward to working with you for another 5 years, and we look forward to seeing you deliver the work that you've set out to deliver for the City and our community. Congratulations. Okay, councillors, that brings us to the end of the meeting. There's no further agenda items, so I therefore declare the ordinary council meeting closed at 7:35 p.m. Thank you, councillors, for your contributions, and thank you, staff, for your support.